Naima, can you tell me about the egg today?
Of course, Fano.
I'll be quiet.
There's no need, Fana. I've grown quite fond of your commentary. Now, it was some time before Nyama had learned of what the breath of life was, and it was some time more after that when she learned how to use
Well,
it.
what is it? And how do you use it?
Well, it's quite simple, Fana. All you have to do is exhale your precise intentions onto the object.
What do you mean precise?
Well, you have to know exactly what you want to bring to life. And you have to hold that idea inside of you for an entire exhale.
Did she do that?
Not exactly, no. You see, my Nyama's only intention was to give life. But what she didn't realize was how much the egg would remind her of Livor, and of how Livor died, and of all the pain and sadness and anger it made her feel. And so she exhaled all of those things instead into the egg. And by the end of her breath, the egg had changed. It turned from a pearlescent white to a blue-black, and it had lost its smooth and sleek exterior. And now it looked rough and jagged, more akin to a rock than an egg. My Nyama began to panic, and again tried. But this time she intended to exhale only love. But the truth of her state prevailed, and instead she released fear and panic onto the egg. And so the egg became darker, and it lost its egg shape altogether. And so for a while, my Nyama stared at the blue-black rock and wondered what, if anything, could be done. She then placed her hand on its surface and was surprised to feel that it was warm and soft, so soft, in fact, that when she removed her hand, an imprint was left behind.
How did she hide all this from Hael? I mean, he sees everything on his replica table, right?
Yes.
Then how come he didn't see Aletta give life to Livor's egg? Wait, did he give Aletta her replica? No, that's not possible. Because if he gives Nyama her replica, then she's free. And you're not free, and neither was Aletta. Because if you were free, you wouldn't let Hael have so much power over you. What?
He did gift her replica.
But
it was bound in the soil of Vod, which makes it bound to Vod. A Nyama can travel to other worlds, but because we are bound to Vod, we are always pulled back. So my Nyama worked without Hael's gaze, or his knowledge. Now, may I finish the story? Good. Now, while Nyama was looking at her hand imprinted on the egg, she thought she noticed movement from inside of it. And as she moved closer, a tiny hand could be seen pushing against her imprint. My Nyama smiled affectionately and brushed her hand gently down the egg. She leaned in and kissed it before sinking back down into the water and making her way back to Dubo, where she would speak with the mast. Now, something you should know about the mast is that they are very different from the Mato. Where the Mato reside in water, the mast thrive in fire. And where the mast are all male, the Mato are all female, and their temperaments are also very different. The Mato are often described as self-absorbed. They concern themselves mostly with self-care and self-discovery. And the Mast are more tricksters, spending most of their energy on obtaining instant gratification. And it was because of these qualities that my Nyama chose to ask them to care for the egg and the life it carried. She knew they would revel in keeping it a secret from Hael. It would be like a game to them. But my Nyama also thought that they would fiercely protect it, as it was a gift from her, Nyama, mother to all. And they did. They hid the egg. They also cleansed it in the fires of Dubo. And when it hatched, they would raise the child as the first and only daughter of Mas.
Speaking of its hatching...
Yes. Well, it hatched. And it hatched in the arms of my Nyama, in the warm water of the ground cave where Nyama had first brought it. And it was surrounded by all the Mato and Mas aboard. She was born with unique features, not quite like the Mato, but also not completely like the Mas. Her hair was like fire, red, orange, and yellow, and she had blue scales like a scab on her back. She had large black spherical eyes with a vertical pupil, and her tail was long and slender like a Mato, but it was midnight blue, and it had no fins, more serpentine than marine. The child then looked up at Nyama and slipped out of her egg. She splashed into the water where she smiled up at Nyama from beneath the surface. But then her lips turned blue, and her body went rigid. She began to sink.
Nyama?
Yes, Fauna?
What? What kind of creature of old are you?
Let me finish the story, Fauna.
Okay.
Nyama caught the child and brought her to the surface. She was cold, almost frozen, but she was still breathing. The mast took her and placed her into the pool of water on a ledge inside the cave, and they blew fire into it, much to the horror of the Mato. But the child was not harmed, and in fact, it revived her. The child breached the surface of the boiling water, and she smiled with all of her sharp little teeth. Nyama thought then of how perfect a mix of horror and beauty she was. She then cupped the child's face in her hands, and she kissed her round and rosy cheeks. Then she closed the eyes that were much too big for the child's face, and kissed each eyelid. I will call you.
You are the egg. I knew it.
Yes, Fauna. I was the egg.
Tomorrow will you tell me more?
Tomorrow I will tell you what it was like to be the daughter of the mast.
Sweet dream. Do you have sweet dreams, Nyama?
Only when I dream of your future. Sweet dreams, Fauna.
I won't disappoint you, Nyama.